What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Young Guns podcast. And there it is, finally, after so long of a wait, after months of deliberation as to where Pierre Luc Dubois would end up, he finally has been traded to the LA Kings in exchange for Alex Iafallo, Gabe Vilardi, Rasmus Kupari, and a 2024 second round pick, which was originally Montreal's pick. In addition, the Winnipeg Jets also signed him to an 8 years, $8.5 million AAV, which they then traded to the LA Kings as part of the deal. What's interesting about this move is it makes the LA Kings have about $4.5 million in cap space after this trade, with a roster of 16 players, including 11 forwards, 4 Ds, and a goaltender. And this has been pretty crazy. What a crazy move! What a crazy, opportunity for not only that, but just in general. What a crazy opportunity for Pierre Luc Dubois, and what a crazy trade this is. And let's just talk about it really quickly. So Pierre Luc Dubois was drafted third overall in the first round in the 2016 NHL entry draft. He played 3 years with the Columbus Blue Jackets before getting traded in that infamous trade for Patrick Laine. In addition to that, he was then traded to the Winnipeg Jets, where he played really good hockey. His first year, not the best, 41 games played, 8 goals, 12 assists, 20 points. Last year, 81 games played, 28 goals, 32 assists, 60 points. This year, in 73 games, had 27 goals, 36 assists, 63 points. So a 60-point guy in the NHL for Pierre Luc Dubois, a 25-year-old centerman who can play on the wing as well. What are the LA Kings getting? Well, they're getting a guy who can score goals. He can clearly put the puck in the net. He scored 20 goals in, 4 seasons out of his last 7 that he's played in the NHL. And he's remained healthy for pretty much all of it. So, Pierre Luc Dubois is not a guy that gets injured much. The concern with Pierre Luc Dubois is the fact that in already his short NHL career, he's pretty much asked for a trade twice. Although he didn't really ask for a trade from the Winnipeg Jets, he kind of initiated it, and there's a lot of issues regarding that. But I think for no matter what happens, I think LA did a very good job here in terms of getting him locked up to an 8-year deal at $8.5 million. But not only that, it's a good destination to play in. LA's a good young team. They've got some good players on that team. Anze Kopitar, Philip Danault, Quinton Byfield are amongst those guys that are going to be big names for LA. Obviously, Kopitar is not young, but I'm saying they've got a mix of youth and a mix of veteran presence there. And I think PLD is going to add to that, which I think is really, really good. The only question with Pierre Luc Dubois is, and obviously everybody's going to talk about it, is, he had talked about potentially going to Montreal, and there was rumors about him going to Montreal, and Montreal didn't want to pay the price. And the truth is that at the end of the day, I think the price that he ends up getting for, and the price that he ends up getting traded for, is not as bad as people give credit for. I mean, if you look at what Gabe Vilardi is, and even what Alex Iafallo is to some extent too. Let's actually search him up right here, just very quickly, just to pull up his stats a little bit. Alex Iafallo is a 29-year-old, left winger, has never been drafted, but, has had some decent numbers in LA. He's a 30, 40-point guy, easily a good top 9 guy for your team. I think the Jets add themselves a really good top 9 guy who can put the puck in the net, be a good, decent power forward, two-way forward as well. I like the player that Alex Iafallo is, and I think that it's a good return for the Jets to kind of get him back in that deal. I think the big centerpiece to this one is going to be Gabe Vilardi, who the 11th overall pick in the 2017 NHL entry draft. He had a really good bounce back year this year: 23 goals, 18 assists, 41 points in 63 games. I think the expectation for him is that he's going to turn into the player that I think everybody expects him to be. And if that's the case, and if he turns into kind of what Pierre Luc Dubois is for the Jets right now, or what he was for the Jets, then I think the Jets are going to be absolutely okay with this. They acquire some cap space in Alex Iafallo. They obviously acquire a young left winger as well, left wing center in right wing center, sorry, in Gabe Vilardi. But Gabe Vilardi is a guy that if he's healthy, we know how good he is, right? When he first started in 1920 at 7 points in 10 games, everyone was excited about the promise that he had. Again, goes to LA in 2020, 2021, gets injured, not the best. And then obviously 21, 22, same thing. injured, not the best. But this year, stayed healthy for most parts of the season. Developed his game, 4 points in 5 games in the playoffs. Looks like to me, like I think is gonna probably end up reaching his potential or close to that. So I think Velarde's done fantastic this year, and I think that's a really good addition for the Jets to add. So adding two wingers that can play on your top line right away or top nine right away, I think is absolutely really good. And Velarde's 23. He's still young, can still develop into something pretty decent. And obviously, we know how capable he is of becoming, a pretty good top six forward in the NHL. I think that there's some promise there. And then you got Rasmus Kupari, who's a little bit of a wild card in this trade. He's not the centerpiece, but he's got some potential. 23 years old as well. Drafted 20th overall in the 2018 draft. This year played 66 games, had 15 points, 3 goals, 12 assists. He was a -5. He struggled in the NHL this year. But there's expectation that maybe he'll go into Winnipeg and have a change of scenery and maybe become a better player, right? I see him as a good top nine guy for the future. I think the Jets get themselves a good third line center for the future, potentially in Rasmus Kupari, if that's what he ends up being. But I think that's really good. I think the haul is really good. The second round pick's a decent addition to that as well. They acquire a second round pick in 2024. That's just good to add in terms of the prospect pool. But the Jets do really well here. And obviously, I want to go look at LA. They haven't updated it yet, I don't think, the trade. So we're going to go straight to the LA Kings here. And we're going to check their cap friendly page a little bit because I want to see the contracts on these guys. So obviously, if you look at Alex Iafallo, he makes $4 million for this year next. Not bad considering what he brings to the table. That's not a bad opportunity for him. Rasmus Kupari and Gabe Vilardi are both RFAs. Vilardi has arbitration rights. Rasmus Kupari does not. I believe they're going to probably sign both of them. So the Jets end up getting back equivalent value to let's say what you would have paid for Pierre Luc Dubois. They end up getting three players instead of one, which is good. As for LA, I mean, right now they currently have 9 million. They're going to have probably about 4 or 5 after everything is all said and done here. Um, you know, he's going to be added into a core with Kevin Fiala. He's going to be added into a core with Adrian Kempe, with Victor Arvidsson, Trevor Moore. There's really good opportunities here for the LA Kings to kind of come in here and build their team and build a playoff team. And one good thing about Pierre Luc Dubois too, for people that don't know, he's kind of a playoff performer. He does well in the playoffs. He shows up when he needs to. 2 goals, 2 assists, and 4 points in 5 games in the playoffs. So he's a guy that's going to give you playoff success as well, like playoff points and actually show up in the playoffs. So that's good for LA. And listen, in terms of where he's going to fit, I mean, if you look at kind of their core right now, obviously you take out Alex Iafallo, you take up Gabe Vilardi, and you take out Rasmus Kupari. Looking at this team the way it is, I think Kevin Fiala probably suits right where Pierre-Luc Dubois is going to be. Let's say you throw Pierre-Luc Dubois on the second line right wing and you don't start him as a center, right? Let's say your top three centers are Anze Kopitar, Philip Danault, and Quinton Byfield. That's a really good center core. And then you can throw Dubois on that right wing side, potentially on that second line or even the first line if you want to play him with Kopitar and have Kevin Fiala play there as well. That's a really good top nine. And then obviously you've got Trevor Moore that can come down a little bit to that third line, maybe with Quinton Byfield, and maybe LA adds somebody else. Who knows? Or they bring up some prospects. Arthur Kaliev's a guy that had a really good year this year. And then for Kupari, I mean, he's obviously on the fourth line. Velarde was on the third line this year in Winnipeg, in LA, sorry. And so there's promise there. And then if you look at their D pairings, it's kind of the same thing. But if you go to Winnipeg, just very quickly in terms of what the Jets can kind of offer up in terms of what they have on their forward core. Well, Pierre-Luc Dubois was the first line center. That's without including Mark Scheifele. I think for me, if they keep Scheifele or Hellebuck or Wheeler, they're probably going to make some more moves. So this Jets team right now is going to look a lot different. But I think for Iafallo, he probably slots into that second, third line role, kind of where Ehlers is playing right now, or Niederreiter. That's where I think he'd probably end up, maybe closer to where Morgan Barron or Mason Appleton is. Kind of the same thing with Gabe Vilardi, top 6, top 9 guy. I don't think he plays top line minutes, but I could see him on the second power play unit. I can also see him on the top 6, potentially next to a center. I can also see him playing center on that line as well. So there's a possibility for that for Gabe Vilardi. And then Rasmus Kupari, he'll probably be on that fourth line with Kevin Stenlund and Axel Johnson-Fjallby. It's tough to predict the lineups right now just because technically speaking, the season hasn't started yet. So it's really, really tough to kind of see, what's going to happen kind of moving forward. And in terms of that, I mean, that's about it really. For me, I don't think that there's much else to this deal other than that. I know Habs fans are a little bit disappointed because of the fact that Pierre Luc Dubois got traded. I know Habs fans are disappointed with the outcome of the trade, and they wanted PLD. In my opinion, I think PLD was a good player to get in Montreal if the timing was right and if the price was right. I think this is too much. I know the Jets are not trying to rebuild. They get three roster players, three really good NHL players that can turn into pretty decent players. Um, at least if you're Vilardi and Kupari, I don't know how much potential Iafallo has anymore, but he's an NHLer. Whereas the Canadians, I think it was more so the fact that they had a lot of futures. So for LA, they get themselves a good center right winger who is going to be a staple for their team for the next 8 years, and a guy who's going to be a big part of the reason and their success moving forward. And for the Winnipeg Jets, they're retooling, right? They trade their 25-year-old centerman. There's likely more moves on the way, potentially Blake Wheeler, potentially Mark Scheifele, potentially even Connor Hellebuck. So we're gonna see what the Jets are gonna do here. I don't know if LA's done. However, LA did make other moves in this offseason. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Um, Moving forward, obviously they needed money to re-sign Gavrikov, and we don't know what's going to happen in the goaltending situation. Maybe they're in the market for a goaltender. Wouldn't be surprised if they bring back Corpusalo. Also, wouldn't be surprised if they go after Connor Hellebuck as well. So interesting move. I like this. In my opinion, I think the LA Kings probably win this deal simply for the fact that they got the better player. I think Pierre Luc Dubois is, a better player. I think his contract's not bad at 8.5 for 8 years. I know he hasn't really lived up to that expectation, but at 8 years and 8.5, decent number for him. I think there's a good opportunity that he'll probably get there. For the Jets, they get a good haul. Happy with their move. I don't think it's a fleece for the Jets. I think it's really good. I think it's an even trade for both teams, and I think the Jets get what they want, and so does LA. So, guys, please leave your comments in the comment section below. Let me know what your thoughts are on this trade. And please, please, please don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and let me know, Jets fans and LA Kings fans, what your thoughts are on this trade. Are you guys happy with this? Are you guys upset? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching.